Hello, welcome to another video where you get this lad just yapping about Lorcana. Um, so, sort of, it's launch day for Fabled. I hope everyone's opening the packs and enjoying it. And I thought I'd just do a short and sweet video because I think once everyone gets the product and it's a bit more widespread, we can see a bit more of a reaction on the meta and the way decks are going, and putting up a list that, might need to change drastically very anytime soon because of teching or meta calls. Just didn't seem particularly worth it right now. It could be another thing on a really aggro based deck, but I thought it'd be best to sort of do a roundup and chat about the meta and what we're gonna expect to see and what you're gonna see at your locals. Right now, like I say, in testing, everyone's testing in vacuums really. Like, I've got my local scene where we test and when we play games, and I think there's going to be an interesting one that lands there, but it will be quite dominated by Amber Steel, to be honest with you. And then the Amber Steel and Purple Steel sort of just battling it out for the ages. And then I have my online testing group. I test in the SLTC quite a bit, and that's a very interesting one that's gone a bit more different direction. I find those players want to get more control based lists, and it's quite hard to grab a control based list in set 9. A lot are looking, blurple and things like that as is what's taking people's fancy because it has the essence of a lot of control components to it. That amongst other decks, and I'm always one to want to just play the quick aggressive deck, Kiwi Birds and Amber Steel and stuff like that. So it's been interesting to test, and it's interesting to see these little vacuums that have been popping up. I mean, like I say, one's got, I think it's going to be very dedicated to dock piles and in my local scene, and then in my sort of online scene, it's more these big purple aggressive control attempts at decks, or not just attempts at decks in general. Yeah. So with all these little pockets of data, and I'm pretty sure saying that even for those two groups, we've got, of course, the everyone who's listening, your local groups, loads of different teams that are keeping their data to themselves and keeping all the information they have, and just loads and loads of avenues to get more data until it gets put all into one big pot. The best we used to have was the DLC events, and they used to just bring everything in. 2,000 plus players came in to one of those events, and you're playing for the biggest prize you can get in the game, that compared to Worlds, I guess, that, or Continentals. But this is a platform to get you to Worlds, so people were really bringing their own. They had nothing to hide. They just wanted to try win, and we got loads of data and to see what would be the best decks in the set. Right now, though, we do have some big events. We've got, I think it's SSG or CC, or one of the CCG, or one of the American ones coming up soon, which is some ridiculous number of 50 cases or something like that. That's just quite mad. Really, I just wouldn't expect that sort of pricing anywhere here in the UK. So those things, what they can do is, even if it's not an event that's going to be in your region, in your sort of anywhere near you, this big event that's happening in East or West Coast America, it will still affect you if you live in a small town in Europe or something like that, or halfway across the world. Doesn't matter where you are. And it usually means, because all of that data gets put onto Inkdex, gets put online, gets talked about, people go, I want to try that, and then people will go, oh wait, that means I've got to counter that, or oh wait, I've got to try and beat that. So that you get to this point where all of that data, no matter where it is, if it's a big event with a big prizing and got a spotlight on it, it will affect everyone's decisions when they deck build and when they play the game in the future. So really excited to see all those going forward. And again, like I say, there are certain cards people are still playing with because they're doing very good in their pocket of testing groups. But if we go into a bigger field, once everything gets a bit more diluted and we can get everyone's testing groups into one big meshy pile, I guess, we're going to have so much more data and so much more to work with, and it might just mean that lists have to change again and everything like that. And that's kind of why I didn't want to post the list today. I just wanted to talk a bit more about the meta and what I think about set 9, and do a little tier list. And the data that's on the screen, I found this website not too long ago. It's called Ink Tracker. I just saw it posted around a bit, and it looks like a way to track your data. You can individually track your data on it, which is kind of cool. And then what they do is they have this meta report global thing where they've got everyone who personally tracks their data, they put it all together, and then you can get some really cool looking meta share tables like this. So I think that's really cool. And I don't think this is the cream of the crop best data in the world. I kind of generally just wanted to have something on the background of the screen whilst I talk, because that's kind of how all my videos are. So I grabbed this, and it can give you a bit of an example. And I don't disagree with the top 3 that are up there, even if it's data from their site. Of course, I can't disagree with the data, but I would say if I had to pick the 3 decks that are battling it out to be the top spot, it would be Amber Steel, it would be Blurple, and it would be Amethyst Steel as well. I don't know why I forgot Sapphire Amethyst. I couldn't pronounce it in my head, so I've gone with Blurple. It's nicknamed. And the reason why is, like, right now, everyone's seen the aggressive, amazing combo that is Amber Steel's Tiana warding Tiana and bodyguarding it up, and playing Pete next to it, and singing Strength, and doing all those things. Everyone's seen all those amazing like things like that. So just at the start of a set, it's always really good to be the really strong reactive deck, the proactive deck, sorry, that's asking all the questions. You almost don't even care what your opponent's doing, and you might just win the game before they can even figure out how to beat you or what they can do. So it completely makes sense that would be the top contender for what will be winning these weekends of games. We've got one in the 6th of September at Zatu in Norwich that me and Ali will be casting. And again, even there, I won't be surprised if Amber Steel was just dominating it. Maybe people haven't had the time to practice and figure out the answers to it yet, and maybe there isn't very many consistent answers to it, and maybe there are only answers that you can build a deck that will answer that deck, but then it will do bad into the rest of the field, and it's not quite fitting into the meta yet. Maybe, you know, if you gave it a week and Amber Steel was dominating by taking ridiculous numbers like 60% of the meta up, you could build a deck that just beats that deck and take your chances at an event and hopefully get back-to-back matchups into it and win. So yeah, putting Amber Steel at the top completely makes sense to me. And to be honest with you, even on that point, I don't think Blurple is a reaction to Amber Steel. I think Blurple is just good in its own right. It's a very much an all-rounder deck. It plays everything at a very strong ink advantage, and it can kind of win off the back of that, and it just puts strong bodies on the board. It does removal, it does questing, it does aggressive questing with genies as well. It does it all, really. It doesn't do anything amazingly well, but it does everything it does well. So I kind of understand why that's second. It's mad how much that deck's lost draw power, though. I didn't believe that, but it really has. And the third one is Amethyst Steel. Again, completely understandable. I don't think it's a full reaction to what's it called, Amber Steel, but again, it's got a very strong game into it. It's, if you're going to doing this game, we're just building up boards wider, and then someone has to jump in and interact. Amethyst Steel can do that. It has strength. It has the Elsa to exert things. It has you can do Lilo buff, and then you have an alien, you could make them attack. You can do loads of really cool things there. So those 3 at the top just make complete sense to me, and they kind of almost work in a bit of a circle where Amber Steel has a pretty good game into the Blurple. The Blurple has kind of a poor game into the Amber Steel. Well, it doesn't really. On the draw, it can win it, but on the play, I find it's almost unwinnable sometimes. And then Purple Steel has a very decent game into Amber Steel, and you kind of got a bit of a forming there. I don't think that's set in stone, and I don't think that's 100% correct, but you've kind of got this meta game where those 3 will play each other. The Amber Steel would most likely want to see Blurple, I guess. On the draw, it does feel very rough and unwinnable. And then Purple Steel probably wants to see the Amber Steel. It probably does. It does pretty good into Blurple as well. Kind of these decks can all battle it out and have a good game against each other. So my point there is a little bit invalid, because I'd say they also they have key components they can use to beat each other, but overall they don't feel too bad to each other into each other either. I think if I was an Amber Steel player and I had to go against Blurple or Amethyst Steel, I'd want the Blurple, and then the Blurple would probably say I'd want to have the Amethyst Steel rather than the Amber Steel, and the Amethyst Steel would probably say it wants to have the Amber Steel over the Blurple, is how I'd view it. Please tell me how I'm completely wrong and your testing groups came up with a completely different, better answer to that like meta prediction than I have, because I'm pretty sure they're all viable right now to play into each other. But I think my point stands that there's a little bit of a cycle going on there. And then the next one's sort of, you've got the green blue that never really found a home, but it was quite hyped up because it had the ability to sink under the sea and kind of just really destroy all of these Amber Steel decks. And it still kind of does that. It still has the ability to just run over them. It loses points into a lot of the other matchups though, and it seems that you can't build it in a way that it would beat Amber Steel but also beat Blurple, and it's kind of like lost a bit of its power and its identity, and it's dropped down a few tiers. So again, even as I'm saying, this is user data that is off this website that I've only known for like half a day. I don't think that's completely incorrect the way that's shaping out as well. And then you're going to have complete spray of other lists like Ruby Amethyst. People still don't want to drop that. Completely understandable. Sapphire Steel, like I've still been promoting that's pretty good. Jasmine Shift is really strong, but of course, and people are trying it without Jasmine. You can still maybe try some Kiwi based stuff. Sapphire Steel still has a place like in a lot of people's hearts as well, the same as Ruby Amethyst, and also it feels like it's jumped up a power tier by everyone else getting knocked down a power tier. So completely viable and understandable. That has like a fairly high count on how many people are playing it. And then all the other sort of spree of things, I've seen some really interesting Emerald Steel decks with what's it called, like location based spamming and using John Silver to protect it and get resist and then do better trades. It feels kind of crazy to be doing locations right now, as people are basically just always playing for the board and then they can Lilo buff up and take things out. But it's in there. Ruby Steel and Red Green, people always want to try those things as well, because there's just a lot of fun there and a lot of new cards. But I think we will get to a point, and I don't think I'm completely at that point yet. I'm not invincible to this, but I think players will get to a point though where they've just hit the floor of what this set really has to offer, and they'll realize like what's really the viable decks and what are the options. I think there are loads of fun tricks though we can play. Green blue, being this really good counter to Amber Steel was quite an interesting thing to form. And people putting Dumbo in and out of Blurple list is also quite interesting. Purple Steel trying Yzma out, then dropping Yzma. All of these things are quite interesting. There's still like layers to it. There's still more to explore. But I think there is a kind of bedrock. There's not a bedrock, sorry, like a floor that you can hit where you're kind of getting understanding of the set, and it's like, you want to play a non-dock deck, okay, you have to prepare to play against people who might get lucky and draw 2 docks, back to back. You want to play a dock deck, you might have to play into people who get lucky and also draw docks back to back. And it can just, I'm just saying dock back to back is nuts right now. It's just feeling like, you can see a lot of the tricks that this set has to offer. And it feels like there isn't too much depth. Once I've done that matchup where you have 2 dock decks against each other and it's like, do you have Strength for the Raging Fire in your hand? You do. You've probably won the game then. Shall we go to the next game because I didn't draw it after my 6-card mulligan? I feel like there's only so far we can go with this set, but I'm still having fun. It's still Lorcana. I'm going to do a lot of sealed this weekend to sort of just keep enjoying the cards, and it might be fun to do sealed with these cards from set 1 that I used to love. But in my opinion, the way the meta's formed, the way that it's looking, the way that things are coming out, and we've got these 3 decks at the top like we do right here on this screen. I completely agree that those 3 decks are at the top. I'm very surprised that green purple has dropped as far as it did. It looked so promising at the start, but again, I've just not seen anything from it from any avenue. People still love Ruby Amethyst, still love Sapphire Steel. People still love yellow green as well. There was a lot of Dogs fans and there was a lot of Under the Sea fans, so that still finds a place in a lot of people's hearts, and they want to keep trying to make something work there. People love just fringe cards like Clarabelle. I think that sometimes props up green by itself. It's just people love Clarabelle and they want to find a home for the card. So altogether, it makes sense that those 3 are up there, and I think after this weekend of events we're going to get a bit more narrow on it. Right now I've played into random Amber Steels. Like I just came off, I lost twice to it on the sim we don't talk about, and they just got back to back. They were playing a full bodyguard Amber Steel, and they played Daisy, then they played a Nala, then they played Lady, which got Sleepy or the Prince out, and then they full quested, sung Strength, played a Tiana, and they were just completely making this unstable board that I'm pretty sure no deck can beat, I'm honest with you. So yeah, those things are strange, and we're just getting these random sort of lists that you might pair into once on the sim and lose and go, that sucks, and then the next game that deck that you thought was really cracked is like losing to something else because it's just bricked up or it's got 20 uninkables or something. So altogether it feels kind of interesting at that point, but I'm really just I'm glad I got to do a video where I get to just ramble about the meta, because I was getting a little bit in my head of it. Maybe I've played too much or something. But something's popping up on the screen. That probably means time for me to end the video. I'm not sure what that's popped up for, but I hope you enjoyed some of this rambling. And like I say, those 3 decks at the top make complete sense to me right now. I think we go into this set, there's always some interesting stuff where people really just haven't predicted something. I think Kiwi was one of them. Diggy Hole was one of them as well. I'm not putting Kiwi on the same level as Diggy Hole. I'm just saying even DKP's like list was sort of undervalued for a long time. So there is something that we could have missed. But right now, if you're going into an event, those three top decks, you know, Amber Steel, Purple Steel, and Blurple are just the strongest choices right now. So yeah, thank you for letting me have a little ramble on there. I felt like I needed to just do that to talk about the meta.